First, are you a communist?
No, I'm not a communist.
How do you tackle the criticism that some members of the DSA, including half of the DSA leadership, seem to call themselves communist?
Yeah, well, some members of the Democratic Party are proudly proclaiming themselves as capitalists, and it's a big tent, right? But again, at the end of the day, it's up to the voters, right? Until a self-proclaimed communist actually wins an election, then it's just noise from the Republican Party.
First,
2 Democratic congressmen released an open pledge they wanted their fellow Democratic members to sign. It said, "We are capitalist, not socialist. We want safety, not lawlessness. We are proud, not ashamed of America." These should not be hard words for a congressional Democrat to sign on to. You know how many did? 8. 8 out of 212. Guys, really, there's got to be an easier way to lose the swing states. This crowd literally wants to get rid of our form of government, the Senate, but also, and I quote, replace the president and Supreme Court with an executive and judiciary chosen by and subordinate to Congress. Yeah, no biggie. Just taking the very essence of our government, which is 3 branches checking each other and shit-canning 2.5 of them. Who could be this nuts? I'll tell you who. Morons who are still wearing COVID masks in 2026. This photo is from the DSA meeting in Denver 3 weeks ago. Okay, I'm just going to say it. Since the far left, the far, far left, is overwhelmingly made up of affluent, ultra-woke white people, you raised your kids wrong. You told your precious brats that every brain fart was genius, and now those brain farts are becoming Democratic Party policy.
I know what you're thinking. Another video about Democrats? I mean, Democrats are just too newsworthy at this point. Like, the civil war with the Democratic Party is more rampant than anything that happened on the Republican side. Even when Donald Trump was taking over in 2015 to 2016, it was pretty much a slight differences of opinion, a slight directional change for the Republican Party. That's why the MAGA takeover was less glamorous, I'll say. I mean, even when the mainstream media try to cover it glamorously. But one thing I want to focus on as a nationalist, someone who's very patriotic, I do love this country a lot, to hear that only 8 out of 212 Democrats are willing to say they're capitalist, they're not socialist, and we want safety, not lawlessness. Tell me you're trying to lose without telling me you're trying to lose. The political calculation that Democrats are making by staying silent or being ambiguous on this topic, I don't think is benefiting them whatsoever, right? Because then their actions make sense. If only 8 out of the 212 Democrats are willing to sign something saying that they love this country, we're capitalists, not socialists, we want safety, not lawlessness. If only 8 out of the 212 can sign that, then it tells you everything you need to know about what happened with the borders, right? Like Kamala Harris and Joe Biden let illegals do whatever they want, was refusing to deport them. Why sanctuary cities resist ICE at every turn, resist deporting illegals even if they do commit crime, which is supposed to be the middle ground that Democrats was allowing deportation. If they commit serious crimes, we'll want them deported. And I want to really focus on Bill Maher's monologue here as he exposes the platform that the Democrats, socialists, are running on and why it's a bad idea for Democrats to invite them into the tent, right? Because one thing I always talk about on this channel is how much of a scam socialism is. And one of their news examples, which I just recently find out, because when I thought Zohran Mamdani was releasing the grocery stores, many of you called it out and said, hey, Kenny, it's not the entire store. Only a select bit of goods are actually 30% discount. And I was like, what? Only a select few? I thought the entire store was 30% off. But only a small selection of items. And that's giving you less by paying more. And here in this clip, I want to kind of give you an example from another creator's content here that kind of encapsulate in a minute and 45 how bad of a deal that these cheap 5 grocery stores actually are. And as a taxpayer, this is one of the reasons why I say that Democrats, they're good at one thing, and it seems like wasting resources.
The Mamdani markets are official, and they're a bad deal. 70 million taxpayer dollars up front for 5 stores. And so what do you get for that? Well, 30% discounts on a small list of goods. Aldi already beats that. Walmart already beats that. And so the city is spending $70 million to lose to competitors that already exist for free. And keep in mind, this is before a single day of operating cost is accounted for. You still have staff, inventory, maintenance. None of that 30% discount pays for itself. And for what? A narrow selection of basic goods. You don't have a pharmacy, there's no deli counter, you don't have a bakery. And so what New Yorkers are really getting in reality are higher costs, with smaller discounts, with fewer options, without any services. It's a textbook example of a bloated, bureaucratic government requiring more to give you less. What actually makes this worse is that New York already has a program that does this the right way. It's called Fresh, and it offers zoning bonuses and tax breaks for private grocers to build in underserved communities. In fact, since 2009, 30 stores have opened through this program, using $177 million. And it didn't even come from the taxpayers. It came from private investment. It created 1,400 jobs, and 0 public dollars were spent on construction. And so why doesn't Mamdani just do that? Because Fresh doesn't get him what he actually wants. In his own words, he said he wants a store focused on keeping prices low, not making a profit. That only works if a government owns it. And that's why he keeps saying food desert, because that's the only way he can justify this. Because framing it that way makes it sound like there's no other option. Except for this simple fact. There's reportedly 45 grocery stores within a 35-minute walk of the site he picked. The desert isn't real. The math was never the point, and it's not really about the savings. It's about government control.
Don't that sound like a scam? So the Fresh program is already something that New Yorkers already have, right? That seemed like the liberal position, which is what I support. Economic zones, I support that. Hey, if you told me, Kenny, you had to use government subsidies, I'd rather use it to subsidize some sort of demand if it's needed, right? This is one of them. This is something that I think I'll be open to. Okay, if it makes sense, all right. You're already investing $170 billion, $1 million doing this, and now Zohran Mamdani is doing another 70 to essentially tackle the same thing instead of extending something that already there. This is almost as bad as Zohran Mamdani when he was taking credit for the $104 million of worth of delivery tips. Like this is just as bad. Because what are you telling me that there's a program that already exists, essentially incentivizing the same thing and actually giving good good options for the New Yorker customer? Instead, you create this store, spend $70 million on top of it. So what? You can show you're doing something, right? And this is something that I think many people have caught on about Zohran Mamdani. And I always said this about socialists. Socialists don't care about the outcomes. Socialists only care about being in control of stuff and then looking like they're doing something. And it seems like all he's doing this for is for social media. The palatare tax, right? Hey, you doxed 900,000 people when technically your palatare tax, I don't even know if I'm saying it right, is only supposed to affect 31,000 New Yorkers. But you're putting out a list of 900,000. That's suspicious. Given that, 18 months ago, a healthcare CEO got assassinated, and you're putting out the addresses of people who, from a leftist ideology, believes that they are bad people because they're successful, because they are rich. And the liberals are learning this the hard way, right? Bill Maher, he keeps going on these monologues, but to me, it seems like the Democrats are not listening to him. And one of the guests here, I think his name is Scott Galloway, he was affected by this. And apparently he was one of the biggest supporters of this tax, and he himself got doxxed. I like to play a clip here before we go into the video here.
And I've been doxxed.
You've been doxxed? What? Tell me.
So I don't know if you've heard, but Mayor Mamdani has decided to release a list of the 950,000 residences with addresses and names that might be eligible for his pied-à-terre tax. I came out in favor of this tax. This is the definition. He's taken a legitimate source of tax revenue and he's turning it into a wanted poster. And the question I would have is, other than trying to identify and imply these people have done something wrong, and then 18 months after a healthcare CEO was executed in the street and then published the list, what is the upside here? Why is he doing this? And
like, what did you expect to happen? Like, socialists believe that people exist for their benefit. Like that's essentially what it is. Like you're putting people at risk that will be able to pay your taxes, right? Like make it make sense. If socialists was focused on outcome like they pretend to do, right? They want to say eat the rich. They'll say let's end poverty. Because one of the things that I always say or I try to debate with socialists about is that they can't fix poverty. No one can fix poverty, but capitalism is the only one that can change the standard of what poverty means. Right? Poverty used to mean you're destitute, you have homeless, you can't feed yourself, you can't eat for yourself, you can't provide for yourself. That was real poverty, right? You live in bad conditions where you don't have clean water, right? You will die young from malnutrition. You think that's happening here in the U.S.? Sure, you have homeless people, but many can make the argument that many people here who are homeless by choice. This is why anytime New Yorkers or anytime liberals try to spend money or try to subsidize these homeless shelters, they're barely full. They're barely used because of the fact that the homeless people just like to be out and about, right? You can make an argument for that. You can say half choose to be homeless willingly and the other half don't want to be homeless willingly. Those who want help, seek help. Right? But that's not the case for socialism. Socialism has a worse standard of living categorized under poverty. The socialists here in this country are mad because of relativism, right? The ultra rich, the top 1% will always be the top 1%, even if billionaires never existed. You'll still be mad at the 1% because the 1% means the people doing better than 99% of the people in a given location. Right? This is the argument that I always tell about socialism. Like, yo, you don't care. Like, if $100,000 a year was the highest salary someone could ever make, they'll be considered the top 1% relative to everyone else. And all you're doing is like what Margaret Thatcher said: you're taking people from this and you're making them this. The top 1% will always exist, no matter how much money you take from them. And socialists, as I show you from the segment here, exposing the idea that liberals thought, oh, I supported this tax. All you're doing is chasing away success because the socialists really focus on outcomes. They'll realize the rich disproportionately pay taxes. This narrative of the rich people don't pay their fair share, what are you talking about? If a rich person pays the same percentage that you pay, they pay more than you. But to me, it comes across as greedy when we already know the bottom 50% of Americans pay less than about 10% to the coffers of the government, but they take disproportionately more. Who sounds like they're not paying their fair share? Who actually sounds greedy that they want the people, the top 50% of Americans who already pay 90% of the taxes, to pay even more? This is why socialism don't work. You're going to chase away these people out of your city, and where the money's going to come from? These are the questions that the Democratic Socialists don't want to answer. But instead, they want to play and show up on social media to make themselves look good, but it's flash, no substance. But I digress. Let's get into Bill Maher's monologue here about the Democratic Socialists and their communist platform.
And finally, new rule: Donald Trump has told 1 trillion lies, but when he says the Democratic Socialists of America are actually communist, that's not one of them. And it's not hard to prove it just by quoting the DSA and their candidates. J.D. Vance was on the show, and I told him that if the Democratic Party keeps going in the direction of the DSA, my vote was in play. And all I...
Look. One thing I want to point out here is that given how I've been watching this, Democrats have shown no real effort to do anything about that. So it's highly likely this is going to be in the next 5 years. I mean, 2028 is really going to be the starting point of this. Democrats will be considered a socialist party. Like, only people willing to call this out critically is certain members of the Democratic Party, but no party leadership has called this out because they're making a political calculation, which I think is a Faustian bargain that they're not going to come back from, is being kind of neutral on this. This is why the Big Tent thing is something that both the Democratic Socialists are doing and a lot of these Democrats that just want to maintain power for the midterms. This is the political calculation they're making. Short-term gain for long-term pain. And I think Democrats legitimizing the Democratic Socialists just because they're winning in their power centers, I don't think is a good play. And independent voters say, 70% plus say that they will reject socialism, that they're not in favor of socialism. So we'll see how the midterms play out. But like I said, if you give Democrats an inch, they'll take a whole effing mile. If they get some semblance of a victory, they'll use this as an accelerant, as a justification to continue going down this direction that they're going. And like I said, Democrats, actually any politician, the only thing they respect is when they lose power. That's the only thing they respect. That's the only consequence that they actually care about. Hey, end of the day, the country's in our hands. But I digress. Let's get back into the clip.
I heard all vacation was, oh my God, you're a Republican now. No, that's not what I said. I said in play. And here's why. Because not a week goes by where I don't read about some newly chosen, exciting new face in the Democratic Party. And then when that face opens its mouth, the Communist Manifesto or some other crazy shit comes out. Again, let's just read the quotes. The DSA platform says you work as much as you are able and no more than needed. If that was any closer to Karl Marx's dictum from each according to his abilities to each according to his needs, they'd be sued for plagiarism. New York Mayor Mamdani once tweeted Karl Marx's words exactly. They're not trying to hide it. Their most popular influencer, Hassan Piker, thinks communism is so groovy. He laments the fall of the two of the most murderous regimes in history, the Soviet Union and Chairman Mao's China. Mamdani's aide, his top aide, Sia Weaver, said, if you don't believe in the government's sacred right to seize property, it's over.
Like I said, socialism, the purest form of socialism is slavery. If you don't believe in the government's sacred right to seize private property, what is private property? Let's play the game of natural rights, right? What is private property? It's an extension of bodily autonomy, essentially. Hey, this is my body, right? It's mine. I have full control over this thing. In extension, I pull something. These are my property. This is my house. This is my apartment, whatever. And I have my rights here. Hey, you have to abide by certain rules. No. The government can seize this. Hey, we just imported 80,000 people from Morocco, and we want them to live in your house. You can't say no. That essentially that's the power that socialists want. And communists is Karl Marx is the father of socialism. If the guy that produced the ideology that socialists are using is saying that socialism is merely a stopgap, is merely a transitional form, then there's no the semantic arguments that the far leftists make about, oh no, socialism is different from communism. It's the same ish. It's merely a transition point to get to communism, because communism is the end goal. You're gonna tell me the socialist is gonna stop and be like, okay, hey, we've gone far enough. To me, I believe the left has the weakest amount of self-control in our political discussion, as you saw from how they react to political assassinations, Charlie Kirk. Like, they have shown no semblance of being able to stop their impulses. Wishing for the death of Donald Trump. Come on. And you're telling me that these people who want socialism, you think they're going to stop when once it's about to be communist? No.
What? That's a goal? You know you're supposed to scare people into voting for you, right? One of the new soon-to-be Democratic Congresspeople, Darlisia Chevalier, supports seizing all properties from landlords and said, seize the means of production. Mamdani has said the end goal is seizing the means of production. I think they want to seize the means of production. Now, maybe you missed that in school or missed school altogether, but that's communism. Now the coalition within the DSA, called the Marxist Unity Group, is in ascendance, and I must take them at their word when their words include, our commitment is to the long-term struggle for a fully liberated, classless society.
AKA, we all are poor. We all are equally poor, because it's impossible to make everyone equally rich. But you can't make everyone equally poor. What does that sound like? That sounds like slavery. All of you guys are equal. Yeah. Classless. Oh, you all of the same class. That's the only way you can have a classless society. And that's not going to be true, because those working in the government are going to be the ones that are actually rich. Right? Even if on paper they don't have any wealth, they get to manage who gets to eat, who don't get to eat. That's a lot of power. But that's what they want. They run things based on ideology, not on outcomes. This will be the outcome if you listen to the allure of socialist.
In a word, communism. What do they have to do? Tweet out, elect more communists? Oh yeah, Sia Weaver did that. Yes. Good, I'm glad you're shocked.
It just goes to show me, right, with the left and many people who tend to be left-wing, they don't pay attention a lot. They don't pay attention to what their own side is doing. They're so focused on Republican. Like, they don't focus on what their own side is doing, what their own side is cooking over there. That's why I'm like, yo, this vote blue no matter who crowd, to me, y'all cold. Yeah, everything you accuse the MAGA people of, you are making a confession about what you do. Because I've seen instances where MAGA criticizes Donald Trump. I've seen instances when Republicans criticize Donald Trump for his actions and his words. When Trump made some insensitive comment about someone who passed away and he took it as a moment to disparage him, Republicans came out and criticized him. But then let's go to the Jones guy, the lieutenant governor for the attorney general in West Virginia, the one, I forgot his name, Jones. He made some incendiary statements about a fellow colleague that happened to be his political rival, and Democrats deflected, they ignored, they minimized, downplay, right? The stuff with Charlie Kirk, right? No, they didn't want to. Hey, he said these supposedly racist things. They can't give you an example of what racist thing he said. Oh, he said something about DEI pilots. No. He said something about DEI incentivizing a certain thought process. Hey, this demographic doesn't go to this field naturally, and you're incentivizing these people to go in. How can I trust that you're putting qualified people in there? That's what, in context, that's what Charlie Kirk meant. But people take them out of context so they can spin a narrative. And this is exactly what happens. These people, from the Scott Galloway guy I told you about, I support the Pelletier tax, and then he gets doxxed. These people, I think, are either willfully ignorant or they're just playing, they're softening this. I don't know why they're doing this, because they want to win the midterms. But at the end of the day, as a voter, there's no practical reason to put Democrats in power, because Democrats can't even get themselves under control. Democrats don't even know what they stand for. Democrats look like a lost, confused party just trying to string things together. And I don't think I could trust the judgment of a party like that. Yeah, give me all your misgivings about Republicans, how they're bad, but who's the better alternative, though? This party, Democrats, who are cozying it up, we're a Big Tent. You want them, who can essentially be influenced by these people because they're winning in their power centers? Or just take your chance with a Republican? I rather deal with trying to needle a party to do something versus trying to stop a party from doing destruction, because that's what the Democratic Party operates. The D is for destruction. The D is for degradation. But I digress. Let me know your thoughts and perspective in the comments section. I'll be interested to hear your thoughts and your comments on this matter. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Please share this video if you feel so inclined. It really does help me on the algorithm, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.